Hello everyone and welcome to the Kiki London YouTube channel. My name is Amanda and in today's video we are going to be doing some Halloween nail art. Now I want to start off by saying I'm really sorry if my voice sounds a little bit different. I've had an awful sore throat all evening and I feel as though I might be coming down with a bit of a cold. But moving on, we're going to be designing this set onto a set of a set of press-on nails, as I've been really enjoying wearing nail art designs this way. So of course if you was doing this on your natural nails or on a client's nails, you would come in and do your prep and base coat first of all. But when I'm working on press-on nails, I find that it's a lot easier to just skip the base coat because the gel polishes adhere really nicely straight on to the press-on nail tips. So starting off on this thumbnail, I'm going to be doing some blooming gel ghosts. These were really popular last year and I've seen them creeping around Instagram again, so I wanted to give it another go. This time I've done a base of Mystic Noir, which is this gorgeous sparkly black shade. So I've done 2 coats of this, curing each coat for 30 seconds, and then to do our blooming gel ghosts, of course we're going to need some blooming gel and some white gel polish. So I'm going to use classic white from the Hem Free collection for this. So I'm going to place down a small amount of this onto a palette and then get everything ready to start. So I'm going to start off by applying a thin coat of the Kiki London blooming gel. So you want to keep this thin, you don't want to apply it too thick simply because you want the gel polish to bloom quickly. You don't want to be waiting around ages for it to start blooming, and also because you don't want a thick or bulky nail. Then to create the first part of our blooming gel ghost, I'm going to use a large round dotting tool, and then I'm also going to be using my Kiki London stripe liner brush. So I'm going to pop both of those to hand. I'm going to take the dotting tool and dot into a fair amount of gel polish, and then I'm going to press this down but swirl it around as well, just so we get a bit of a larger circle. And then this is also going to start pushing into that blooming gel, and then those circles, you can see there, they're starting to bloom out, so the edges of them are going a little bit fuzzy, giving off that ghostly vibe. And then I'm going to take my strap liner brush and just start pulling down from one part of the circle just to create that whimsical bottom part of the ghost. And you want to be really careful when you do this because you are pulling it down into the blooming gel, so you don't want to pull too much of the blooming gel around, and you also don't want to start marbling the white into the blooming gel too much because then you kind of start creating a marble effect, which I didn't necessarily want. Just want it to look quite wispy at the bottoms there. I'm going to leave this for a few seconds to bloom, and then once that's happened, I'm going to pop them in to cure for 30 seconds. This will stop everything blooming, freeze and cure everything in place. Then I'm going to take classic black, which is also from the Hem Free collection. If you haven't checked out the Hem Free collection, then I highly recommend it. There are 6 shades, a base and top coat, and the easy build up gel is Hem Free as well. So then I'm going to take my dotting tool again, and this time we're going to dot on 2 little eyes on to all of the ghosts. I'm using a double-ended dotting tool here, so it has a smaller end on it. I picked this up from eBay when I very first started as a nail tech, and years later it is still going. I like it though because I like the larger end, but if you don't have a larger end, or if you've got the Kiki London dotting tool for example, you can use the smaller end and then just use a circular motion to make those circles larger. And then I'm going to dot on another circle for the mouth, but I'm going to pull this down into kind of like a little shocked look. And then once I've done that, we're going to pop this in to cure for 30 seconds. And that is that design finished, ready for top coating. So it's super easy, but I feel as though it looks really fun for Halloween. I really wanted to include Harvest Festival in a Halloween set of nails this year. It's not I don't feel as though it's your classic Halloween orange, because it does have a little bit more of a warm reddish tone to it, but I really love this for a Halloween look. So I'm coming in on this first now, and I'm just going to apply 1 coat of this. You're not actually going to see any of this shade because we're going to be applying foils over the top, but whenever I apply foils, I like to have a similar base color underneath, just so if you have any imperfections where your foil doesn't fully transfer, you're not going to see that through the foil. And also because if you turn your hand over and you're looking at the underside of the nail, you're not going to have the foil effect. You're going to have a solid color, which I prefer the look of. So I've chosen my foils. I've got my Kiki London foil gel, which is a must-have for applying your foils, as well as the Kiki London silicone tool. So I'm going to apply a thin coat of this to the entire nail, because on this nail we're going to do a full foil nail. And again, we're keeping this layer of foil gel nice and thin because we don't want thick, bulky layers. Once we have cured that foil gel, I've cut out a small section of this gorgeous orange holographic foil, and I'm going to press it straight down onto the center of the nail, and then I'm going to use the Kiki London silicone tool to start smoothing out the creases. A lot of the time when you're working over, say for example, an acrylic nail or a builder gel nail that you've built up an apex, when it comes to applying your foils, you'll get creases similar to this, like when you're working over the top of press-on nails. You won't see this as much when you're working over the top of natural nails, especially if they're more on the shorter length. However, it is really simple to ease out those creases using the silicone tool, and whilst you're easing out those creases, you're also making sure that the foil is making really good contact with that foil gel underneath. So then once I've got out a lot of those creases, I'm just giving it a good press to make sure it's made good contact, and then you can see it's transferred really well. There's just a few spots around the edges that I'm going to come in and press this on just so that there's no gaps, and then we have 100% full foil coverage, and it looks super pretty. I love the holographic speckles in these ones. As always, I will leave all the products I've used linked in the description box below in case you want to check any of them out. So over the top of this, I'm going to come back in with that blooming gel, and I'm going to apply a thin coat of this because I want to pop some black blooming dots around the edge, and then we're going to go in with some pumpkin stamping in the center of the nail. So what I'm doing here, applying that blooming gel exactly the same as we did on the thumbnail, and then this time I'm just taking my large dotting tool and going into that black gel polish, dotting it down into that uncured blooming gel, kind of trying to make my circles different sizes. So if you go into your gel polish, dot down once and then dot down again, the dot is going to be slightly smaller than the one before. And then I'm kind of just making sure that it's not just a neat line around the edge. We're putting a few coming more into the center of the nail, and then you can see that starting to bloom out, and it just gives this really cool effect, especially over the top of that foil. So once I had allowed it to bloom for a few seconds and I was happy of how it was looking, I popped that in to cure for 30 seconds. I did then matte top coat, but unfortunately there wasn't any footage. So the reason I matte top coated is because I was going to hand paint on a pumpkin, but then I wasn't 100% sure what look to go for, and then I decided I'm not very good at hand painting, and there's already quite a lot of nail art going on in this set, so I would stick with some stamping. Now, a lot of the time when I hand paint, I will matte top coat because I find it a lot easier to hand paint over a matte top coat, but sometimes the same goes for stamping as well. So if you're having any trouble with stamping, you can always give it a go. The other reason why I top coated as well is so that if I make any mistakes with my nail art, I can wipe that off without wiping off any of that blooming gel design that we've got underneath, because even though it's cured, if you're going over your cured gel polish with acetone, is going to start breaking it down. So it's always nice, if you're not sure how your nail art's going to go, to top coat that layer so everything's sealed in before you come in with your next layer. On to the next nail, I've done 2 coats of the gorgeous Harvest Festival because I wanted a bit more of this orange to come through. Obviously you wouldn't see it on the previous nail because of the foil over the top. So on this now, we're keeping it simple. We're going in with a full coverage of Harvest Festival, matte top coating, because I'm going to hand paint on some drips. So again, I've matte top coated just because it makes hand painting a lot easier, but also when you're doing things like these drips and you're playing around with nail art, it stops it running. When you can sometimes do gel polish nail art over the top of your cured gel polish, it can sometimes bleed a little bit and you don't get those sharp edges to your hand painted nail art. By putting a matte top coat down, it stops that bleeding. So I've dotted on 4 dots where I want my drips to go, and then I'm just taking my stripe liner brush and pulling up to the top of the nail. I didn't want to draw too much attention away from the Harvest Festival, as I really wanted this particular nail to be that real bright pop of colour. So I'm keeping those drips fairly on the small side, and we're just going to keep them down at that cuticle area. So once I'd pulled the gel polish up, I'm then coming around the edges just so we have got a black layer there, so you can see effectively where that black gel polish would be dripping from. And then I'm just going to come in and perfect those drips a little bit, so just make sure the lines aren't too crisp. We're kind of rolling in from that dot to bring it into more of a drip shape rather than a dot and then a straight line, if that makes sense. We're just rounding off those sharp edges. And then once I was happy with this, I popped that in to cure for 30 seconds. Now this did look really good with the matte and glossy combo, and I was thinking that I would just top coat the black drips, but then when it comes to top coating, I completely forgot and top coated the whole nail. But if you did want to keep it how it looked there, you've got your matte top coat already over the Harvest Festival, then you would just need to come over the top with a glossy top coat over the top of the black drips. And I would do this with the rubber top coat because then it gives a little bit more dimension to the nail where that is a little bit thicker. So then you get the glossy and matte combo, but then you're also adding in a little bit of a 3D look as well. On to the next nail, we are coming in and doing our base color of vintage white for this set. So what I wanted this now, I wanted to do a French with some spiderweb stamping. So I've got vintage white as my base colour. I wanted to keep a more cool tone look, so I didn't want to go anything with a pink or nude, and vintage white is the most beautiful off-white shade. So I've done 2 coats of that, and then I'm coming in with my French brush, loading this up with a generous amount of polish and placing it flat down onto the nail to create that French shape. The first part of the French where you've got that smile line shape, I'm getting that done first, and then I'm going in with the longest part of the brush, dragging that down to create the wings for the smile line. Now of course this is going to depend on how you want your particular French to look. I wanted this to really look quite elongated. I really wanted the French tip to pop, so I wasn't going for your classic natural French look. However, it is really easy to achieve that as well using the French brush. So this is really versatile when it comes to doing French nail art. I absolutely love this brush. So once I've got the shape down, I'm just coming in and patching up the colour with a little bit more because I didn't go in with a too thick colour when I was first just mapping out where I wanted my smile line to be. And then I'm coming in with a little bit of alcohol on my round nail art brush and just cleaning up wherever the line isn't super crisp, and I'm just making sure it's nice and neat and I'm happy with how it looks from all angles. Popping that into cure for 30 seconds, and then we are going to come in and do a second coat. So exactly the same as before, loading up both sides of the brush, popping it so that it's flat against the nail, lining it up over that smile line and then simply pulling it down. And then I'm taking the longer end just to drag that gel polish down, and this is going to work similar to how it would if you was using the strap liner brush and you was using that to bring the edges of your smile line shape down. And then I'm just coming in and evening out that colour, making sure everything is nice and smooth and there's no lumps and bumps in the application. And then once again, if you want to come in with some alcohol and neaten up your second coat, you can do that as well. I always like to, just to make sure it looks super smooth and super sharp, because there's nothing more frustrating than spending time creating a really nice French and then you've got just like a little section where it's a little bit uneven or something. So I like to take a few seconds just to clean up with the round nail art brush, popping that in to cure for 30 seconds, and then I want to have some spider webs. So I'm gonna stamp on my spider web, but it is gonna go over the vintage white part of the nail as well. So what I'm gonna do is stamp this down. I'm going to do one in the center of the nail, as this is what you'll predominantly see. So as you can see there, it's gone over my French. Now you could leave it like this, it does still look like a fun design, you can still see that French popping through, but I wanted the spider webs to simply be on the orange part of the nail, so just on our French tip. So I'm going to come in and grab another one of those same spiderweb images, but I'm just going to use a small amount of each of this on each side of the nails. You'll see what I mean. So I'm removing all of my excess and I'm just going to press half of it on to this side of the nail, press down, and then take the other bit that's left on the stamper and press that down onto the other side. If this doesn't work out, you can just go in and pick up another image for the other side. I did give this a minute to dry, and I then come in with my round nail art brush and a little bit of alcohol, and then I'm just wiping off any of that gel polish that we want to get rid of. Any of that stamping polish that we want to get rid of. So basically I'm following that line of the Harvest Festival underneath and wiping everything off. And I'm doing this with a really small amount of alcohol at a time, simply because I don't want it to go up and flood the areas where we want that stamping polish to stay. So I'm just being really, really careful, using a real small amount of time at a time, wiping off the excess onto a cotton pad and then going in and cleaning up the nail. And I just kept repeating those steps until I was happy with how it looked. On to the fifth and final design. We've got our base of vintage white, so I applied 2 coats exactly the same as what we did on the French nail, and then I'm coming in with a thin coat of foil gel. Now I'm going to apply this to the entire nail, but we're not going to be applying foils to the entire nail, so we're just going to be doing some sections. So I'm very lightly gonna press on this metallic foil, and it wants to grab onto the nail so easily, so you do have to do really light touches, otherwise you are just going to get full coverage. And I kind of just wanted a scattering of the foil down the center of the nail so that you can still see a lot of that vintage white coming through, and it gives off a little bit of an abstract vibe, which I really liked. Then I'm going to add on a spider up in this section, and I want this to predominantly go over the top of that foil so we get that really easy layered look. I love layered nail art designs. So we're going to clean off that one, and then on the bottom part of the foil I'm going to come in and stamp on a little pumpkin. So again, I'm just going to come in, apply my stamping polish to this small little pumpkin here, scrape away the excess, and then with a quick flick of the wrist I'm going to pick that little image up. I always use a lint roller to remove any excess image, and I have to say I really love how stamping looks over foils. It's such a simple way to get a really pretty layered look and just look a little bit different than simply adding stamping onto a nail. So this is what all of the nails looked like once all of our nail art had finished, and today I'm going to come in and top coat using the crystal top coat. So this is the newest top coat from Kiki London, and the shine on it is absolutely incredible, and I felt like I wanted a lot of shine for these nails because we've got the stamping and the foils and then their pops of colour. So I'm going to come in and apply a thin coat of this to all of the nails. When I'm working over a lot of heavy nail art, so things like stamping especially and hand painting, I like to just float on that top coat. So I'm just wiping off one side of my brush and then gently just floating over the nail, so trying to not do too much dragging, trying to use quite a light feathery touch with the top coat. And then once we have applied this to all of the nails, I'm going to pop it in for a 60-second cure. And then I did pop these straight on. I wanted to see what they would look like on, so I have left a clip and some photos of the finished set. I really hope you all enjoyed today's video. Please do comment below and let me know what nail was your favorite. I have to say I really love the Blooming Gel Ghosts. They're kind of on the edge of cutesy but kind of being a bit spooky, but I did also really love how that French nail turned out as well. I'd happily wear a full set of Spiderweb Frenchies. Anyway guys, thank you all so much for watching. As always, if you enjoyed today's video, please do give it a thumbs up, and if you aren't already subscribed to the Kiki channel, please do consider hitting that subscription button. I hope you all have a wonderful weekend. Lots of love. Take care. Bye bye.